Okay, let's talk rapture. All right. So the pre-trib camp has told you for all of our lives, look up. It's almost time. We're almost out of here. There's no way Jesus would have us, the church, go through the tribulation. Is he mad at us? No, of course not. And their argument basically leans on innuendos. It implies things that really aren't there in the verses. They'll pull out verses that are about other things. And it's like, wait a minute, you read into that deeply and you read the Greek and it's like, that doesn't say a rapture, it doesn't say the church. They're just injecting all of this stuff in the text. And so you're scratching your head and you're going, now, wait a minute, this is my pastor. This guy is brilliant. He's been telling me for my whole life how Christianity is. In fact, the reason I'm in such good standing right now and walking strong is because of him. So how can these people all be wrong? All right. And, when you look into the Bible and you read verses that actually expressly talk about the rapture, you're only going to find like 4 of them. Okay. And what they talk about is Paul is actually giving a nuts and bolts. This is how it happens. Physically, this is what's going to happen. Your body's going to be transformed. There's no verse that's sitting there saying, hey, this all happens before the end of time, before the tribulation. What it is Jesus is saying just the opposite. Jesus actually says, look, after the tribulation is when the rapture happens. Okay? In fact, this is what Jesus is saying. Okay? The pre-trib camp is saying, look up. Before Jesus said, look up, listen to all the other things that he said would happen first. Okay? Jesus said, you're to endure persecution patiently. You're going to have to, some of you will go to prison. Some of you will be killed with the sword. Remain faithful unto death. Okay? Jesus said, anyone who tries to save his life will lose it. Jesus said, don't hate or revile those who persecute you. Okay? Jesus said this, it's going to be so bad that they're even going to think they're doing God a service when they kill us. In fact, he said this, I will have to shorten the days so that the elect would survive. Now look at that litany of instructions and admonitions. Does that sound pre-trib to you? Okay? Then Jesus, even before Jesus is about to say, look up, he then says these other things. The sun's going to go dark. The moon's going to turn into, a red. I mean, and then look up, for your redemption draweth nigh. So this is a very lopsided argument that the pre-trib camp is. They're not giving me all the information. In fact, there's even elements of the pre-tribulational camp that would say, oh, wait, what Jesus was saying doesn't actually apply to us today in the church. He was speaking to another group, and they actually take entire passages, the Olivet Discourse and so forth, and they dismiss them. And they add a third coming of Jesus, which is found nowhere in the Bible. They say that Paul preached a pre-tribulational rapture when all he did about the rapture, the reason he even went into it was because some believers were afraid that their lost loved ones, the believers that had been killed and martyred, their question was like, hey, are these guys okay? What happened to them? And Paul describes in clear detail, look, 4 times he mentions those that had died. And he said, they will actually go up before we go up. Nowhere does he say that it's a 7 years before. I mean, come on. If Jesus said, look, I'm going to raise everybody up the last day, how do you get raised up 7 years before the last day? Jesus said it 3 times in John 6. You can go read it. 6:39, 6:44, 6:54. I will raise everyone up on the last day. So this thing about being in a pre-tribulational rapture, it is poor pastoring. It is ill preparing the church, okay? So you as a believer, I'm not saying you need to leave your church. I'm not saying you need to, go stomping down on the church and pound on the doors. And no, you just need as an individual believer to let you and your family know, hey, look, Jesus is telling us that we're going to have to endure. Don't take the mark of the beast. Don't think that you're fixing to vanish and there's not going to be any hardship at all. Just the opposite. Think of it this way, guys. It could be perhaps that you and I have been chosen to be part of this generation, the only generation that is going to actually be at the second coming of the Lord, which means we would go through the times, those months and years of the end where the Antichrist takes over. And the most important thing in this whole thing to tell our kids is do not renounce Christ. Do not take the mark of the beast. There is absolutely no do-over for that. That is eternal damnation. So look, this is a serious issue. It's something that we all need to have inside of our hearts. So I just admonish you today, guys, be encouraged. Read through these scriptures. Understand that our pastors were indoctrinated in seminary to believe that the Apostle Paul was trying to tell us that we all get out of here before the tribulation starts. And that is not what the scripture says. Not at all.